Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Nick Adams, and I work here at Pdftran on the marketing team. I'll be the one communicating with you for the duration of the webinar in the chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen. Please, if you have any questions, type them out in the questions tab, and Andre will try to get to as many as he can today. There will also be a designated question period at the end of the webinar. And we will also be following up with you after as well. So if your question isn't answered today, don't worry. We'll have an opportunity to go through it afterwards. Our speaker today is Andre Safonov. Andre is a solutions engineer and one of the public faces of Pdftran. You may notice him from our YouTube channel or various other speaking gigs with PDF Association or other events. With almost a decade of experience in the tech industry as an engineer, consultant, and architect, Andre works closely with startups and Fortune 500 companies to create scalable performance solutions in all verticals. So without further ado, let's welcome Andre to the session. Thanks, Andre.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks so much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for coming on and spending the next hour. We have prepared exciting content for you today, and pretty much what's going to happen in the next hour, we're going to kind of go through and learn a little bit about Pdftran, learn about Pdftran technology, and then specifically how it integrates into the Salesforce, and what are some different use cases that our customers are using us for inside of the Salesforce platform. And for the latter half of it, we're going to get a little bit more hands-on, where I'm actually going to walk you through, from a technical perspective, through our documentation and how one would go about integrating the Salesforce Webviewer component inside of a workflow. And then once we built out the Lightning Web component, we're actually going to customize it a bit to create a document assembly out of it. Now, before I jump in, I want to learn a little bit more about you and kind of how familiar you are with Pdftran technology. So this way I can kind of try to create a custom experience for you. So if you actually head on over to the poll tab, just on the, I believe it's right of your screen, you can kind of go ahead and answer my question. How familiar are you with Pdftran and our products? And there's 4 options. Not familiar at all, so you never heard of Pdftran, just coming in brand new. That's okay, great place to be. A little familiar, and then you're already using Pdftran products somewhere else. Maybe you have it embedded inside of your React app or Angular or somewhere on the backend process like Windows or Linux. And then you already use us on Salesforce platform. Okay, so I'll just give you a little bit of time to kind of go ahead and answer that. And meanwhile, I'll prepare my screen sharing. Awesome. So roughly the results are coming in, and I can see that most of you are a little familiar, but currently not using any products. And then some of you already use our products inside of Salesforce platform, and then using Pdftran technology a little bit elsewhere. So this is great. I think you're in the right place for kind of being here. Now, if you're an existing customer, what I will try to do, I'll try to highlight some of the changes as well that kind of we added to the Webviewer 7.0 over 6 or 5, the version you might be currently on. So we're just going to make it exciting and interesting for everybody. Okay, so what you should be seeing on your screens right now, kind of a Lightning Web component. So this Lightning Web component kind of comes as a sample that we provide on our GitHub for you to get started with, just to get familiar with our product on Salesforce. Now, this Lightning Web component is meant to be as a starting point and just kind of go ahead and just kind of, extend it, customize it, build it up. Now, I'm just going to, before jumping into kind of the Webviewer, I'm going to explain first a little bit about Pdftran, who we are, and then what products that we offer and technologies that we cover. Now, at Pdftran, we've been around for 20 years, and pretty much we started first as a PDF editing capability right around the same time as PDF specification came about. Later, we added our own rendering engine to kind of bring high-fidelity rendering to all of the platforms. And at Pdftran, our motto is build everything in home. So we don't actually rely on any open source technologies for our rendering experience. Now, the next step that we did, we said, okay, PDFs are great, and that's just kind of our in-house expertise. But a lot of our customers are dealing not just with PDFs, but other file formats as well. So we added MS Office documents, images, CAD documents in the construction industry, and as well as videos. So if you take a look at our technology screen, we kind of provide landing pages for each and one of them, and you can kind of go and learn a little bit more about them. Now, on the kind of technical side of things, we have our core library that's written in C++, and then it gets cross-compiled on a number of different frameworks and platforms. So we power capabilities on kind of server-side processing, kind of microservices architecture as well. And then we offer native SDKs for Android, iOS, and Windows desktop viewing as well. We have macOS capabilities as well. And perhaps our most popular platform, and it seems like the development, that's where it's headed, everyone's developing on web. And web itself has a lot of different kind of frameworks and flavors to it. So as such, we try to be as framework agnostic. So we're writing kind of in pure JavaScript and trying to make sure that we're compatible with all the frameworks. So we have kind of integrations into React, Angular, Electron, Node.js, and others. Now, for integration specifically, and this is what we're going to be talking in this webinar, we have prepared an integration of perhaps our most popular flagship product, Webviewer SDK, that allows us to view, edit, annotate PDFs into Salesforce. Now, there's tons of different kind of software development kits or JavaScript renders out there. However, Salesforce is a unique platform where there are certain kind of restrictions or limitations that you can't just kind of simply grab and plug and play any JavaScript SDK inside of it. So as such, we actually partnered up with Salesforce to bring you a secure kind of component that you can integrate into your application and customize it specifically for your needs. So today, I'm going to be going through kind of very in-depth our Salesforce offering and walk you through kind of integration guide as well. Before we jump into documentation and get our hands dirty with some code, let's actually go ahead and kind of take a look. Well, what is Webviewer Software Development Kit? What does it do and what it can do? Okay, so here, as you can see, I'm inside of my Salesforce kind of sandbox environment. I created a Scratch org specifically for this kind of demonstration. Now, what I can do in here is we can view PDFs, Office documents, images, and the way that we do it, we actually do it completely inside of the browser and specifically within the Salesforce platform. So those files, the file that we see in front of us, is actually sitting inside of the Salesforce platform, and we're kind of opening it up. Salesforce stores the documents in base 64 and just rendering it out inside of the PDF document. Now, you might ask yourself, like, well, doesn't the Salesforce already do that? I can already go ahead and see my PDFs, images, Office documents. It can, but if you kind of play around with it, it's a little bit tricky because the way Salesforce platform handles it by converting into an image. So when converting into an image, well, first, performance is a bit slow. When we're trying to get a preview out of the Salesforce kind of file preview, it takes a little bit longer. And for longer file formats, it might not even kind of get there. And then we lose kind of some of the zooming capability. So for example, here, I can kind of keep going into the document and zooming and still get that really clear text inside of it. I can also kind of get my search capability that's going to be working, which the kind of out-of-the-box Salesforce preview doesn't actually offer it. So for example, I search for the word collaborate, and it highlights the search result for me on the screen. In similar fashion, I can search for other terms and kind of get there. So I see there's kind of a lot of questions coming in, which is great. That's exactly what we want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop at certain sections of it and then kind of get to them and answer them. as the webinar goes on. So don't worry, I'm not ignoring your questions. I'll get to them on time. Okay, perfect. So, so far we kind of took a look that we can kind of view different PDFs, MS Office documents, and images all inside of our Lightning Web component. We can search for them, search for the text inside of them. So let's go ahead and kind of clear the search for this one. And what else I can do is I have different kind of viewing modes available. So for example, I can fit the page to width or just fit to the page. And in this particular document, I have kind of 3 pages inside of it. And what I can do, I can actually extend my kind of page level controller. And inside of it, it actually allows me to do several page manipulations where I can pick up a page, kind of drag and drop it to rearrange the position of the page within the document. I can rotate it, delete it, and I can perform those batch operations on kind of a range of pages. So for example, working with a document that has more than 3 pages that we see on the screen right now, we can perform those operations. Now, when kind of Webviewer opens it up, we open it up from kind of Salesforce. It's not limited to Salesforce. We can also open up files from URL. Let's say instead of using kind of Salesforce record storage and storing everything in base64, you can actually kind of probably you plug it in with your other storage like an S3 bucket, and we can open the files from there as well just by simply passing a URL to the Webviewer. And then you can also add things like token or authorization to kind of to ensure that the file delivery is authenticated and secure. Now, when it actually gets into the Webviewer, the rendering part happens inside of the browser and happens completely client-side. So we don't need any additional server-side dependencies just to power this functionality. And it creates kind of a local copy within the secure browser binary storage where we can kind of perform our edits and manipulations. And then if we want, we can actually save a new copy back into the Salesforce or back into the S3 or update an existing kind of document that we just opened. Now, on top of kind of viewing page manipulation and editing, some of the other functionality I can do is I can, of course, annotate. And this is kind of coming in very, very handy, especially right now, as in COVID times. I hope you're all staying safe. Where we can kind of collaborate, and I did search for this word on purpose. We can collaborate in real time, and we can kind of create our highlights, and place our comments, and kind of work together on reviewing this document. So we can say, hey, could you please change this text to, and we can actually try to kind of use and connect it to some of the Salesforce existing kind of features and functionalities where we can tag other users into the platform. So for example, I can mention John. And what's happening here when I hit post, this kind of reply to the comment, not only we can see which comment corresponds to what, but we have an event that's raised anytime somebody creates a highlight annotation, anybody comments or replies onto it, or anybody uses @mention symbol to mention a specific user. Now, you can listen to those events and kind of set up or customize any of your workflows inside of your application to kind of match, whatever kind of work you're trying to do. So, for example, in a lot of the cases, we see that we got to bring up certain documents, either one user at a time or multiple users at different times or at the same time can kind of go into the document, review it, add their notes, comments, for example, maybe strike out some text if they don't want to, place their kind of sticky widgets on top, or simply, create a new page and add their header. So for example, here I can just go ahead and insert the text. So I'll say header and provide the name. And here what I can do is actually use some of the built-in rich text editing capability to make this, kind of bolded. This is italicized. And I can also play around with the text size the way it appears. So now this is an annotation that gets created kind of on top of the PDF document as a separate layer. What we can do at this point is, we can actually download this file and open it up, and those annotations, comments would appear exact same way in Adobe Reader. So if you kind of think of Webviewer, and like the way to think of it is Adobe Reader Pro, but inside of a browser. So if previously your users kind of in their use case or day-to-day, right now they have to download the file, place their comments and annotations on top of the document using whatever viewer or editing tools that they do, then re-upload it back into the Salesforce or email it around, which is not secure, emailing it around. And you also can have a retention policy on the document if somebody downloads it. So we actually can customize the viewer to kind of remove any download or print functionality or disable text selection on the document if we want to provide more secure kind of viewing environment to our users. Okay, so what other annotation capabilities are available? So we can add various shapes. It could be square, circle, multi, pentagon, cloudy annotation, arrows to kind of really pinpoint that exact information. We can also insert, and by the way, all of those groups are customizable. So for example, Webviewer offers a lot of different functionalities and can be tailored for a number of different use cases. But if certain functionality is not needed, you can simply hide it and just simplify the user interface to make it as simple as possible for your users to kind of get things done. Now, as you can see, the first tool that's available in our insert menu is the signature. Now, we actually power a lot of kind of signing workflows similar to kind of Docusign, Sign Easy, and others. We're kind of the backend engine that provides and places the signatures and performs the digital signature in their kind of offerings. Now, in here, you can actually build out your own Docusign workflow. So what I can do is I can either designate an area of where I want to insert the signature, and then I can draw the signature, I can type it out, or upload an existing one, and then kind of place it directly onto the document. Now, we also support complete kind of signature workflows, but you can also add kind of form filling it out where I can insert my kind of first name, last name, add a date of when it was signed, and you can combine it together with a digital certificate to make it a valid and true legal signature in your jurisdictions. Okay, I can also add kind of in review and approval workflow, stamping can save a lot of the time as well. So for example, I can use a standard set of stamps that's available to me. For example, I can just stamp approved, completed, expired, not approved, void, or I can actually use a custom stamp designer if there's no existing stamp that covers my requirements. So, when I was going through the stamps, I couldn't find an awesome stamp. So I'll just go ahead and create it on my own. And I can actually toggle whether or not I want certain fields appear. And yeah, I really like it. Maybe let's make it blue and just stamp it on the document. Sweet. This is pretty awesome. So just a quick question that popped in that actually kind of relates to what I'm showing you right now, if it's creating the PDF on the fly. So we can. Right now, I'm just opening a document from the Salesforce storage and annotating on top of it. I can flatten those annotations inside of a document if I wanted to after I'm done, or I can actually save them separate as like an XML string afterwards and load it up for other users. And that's how we enable real-time collaboration, or just lock it down to that specific user. Now, it is possible to create a brand new page inside of the PDF and just, use the same annotation capability that I'm showing you right now. We can also place images inside of it, file attachments, and create callouts to really kind of bring out that specific text. So for example, I can say, Webviewer is awesome. Okay, pretty biased here though. Webviewer is pretty sweet. I really enjoy working with it. Okay, cool. And then some of the other kind of functionality that's really popular with our construction industry is measuring capabilities. Now, measuring capability can measure distances on a PDF area, kind of with various tools like point-to-point, a path, or certain shapes. And, we can pull up CAD drawings or floor plans where this can be completed. And one of the interesting use cases that I came across and I worked with a customer on it was working with a kind of banking industry in their mortgage department. So would they actually get a floor plan of an apartment building, and they would measure the area that the person is, trying to get the down payment for, and then kind of use it in their calculations to provide with an accurate quote. So that was kind of neat. And then another fun use case for the measurement, we worked in a medical space where they would bring up the X-ray scans from kind of like a human brain, and they would measure the distances of where the surgery needs to take place. So again, Webviewer just has so many different uses that we try to make sure that we have the feature available to when you build your product. Okay, and then in the editing group, we have kind of cropping ability. So where we can crop a page. Let's say it's a scanned-in page, and then some extra stuff got picked up, and we don't want it. We can actually just kind of crop it out. And then this tool that I wanted to show is redaction capability. So for example, let's say we're dealing with any kind of sensitive data or information on the document. I could actually mark up the area. And this right now just kind of creates a placeholder annotation on top. And then, I can also use the reject search to kind of help me identify what is personally identifiable information. So we can search for things like phone numbers, emails, addresses, credit card numbers, whatever it might be, whatever rejects you want to build out, we can support searching for it. And usually I see it as a kind of like a hybrid, where this gets predetermined ahead of the time. Maybe server side, as the user uploads the document, you just run it through like a certain word bank or a search, and then you create those placeholder annotations and then load it up on Webviewer, and people can say, yeah, you know what, this is a good suggestion. I'm going to say that's accepted for redaction. This is accepted for redaction. And after kind of user completed their review, which you can add a custom button in the header somewhere, say, hey, I'm done with annotating the document. What we can do is actually go ahead and remove that underlying element. So it's not just kind of converting to an image and placing a black box on top of it. It maintains PDF format and searchability and text, but just under those specific coordinates, it removes anything underlying content. So it could be an image, could be text, could be some path that kind of intersect within that coordinate box, and we just go through each element at a low level and then remove it completely. Okay, pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do before kind of jumping in, kind of walking you through from a technical perspective and how to actually put it in into your Salesforce environment, I'll just go through a little bit of a questions and kind of see some of the questions that you might have. And then go through a bit of a change log about what's kind of changed between the different versions. Okay, let's see some of the questions. Okay, so does this software require server hosted locally? Now, it does not. So Webviewer can do rendering and can rendering, annotating, everything that you pretty much seen, even redacting of the content, can do it completely client-side in the browser with no need for any server-side dependencies. So just kind of plug and play into your Salesforce instance, or in case of a React app, it will just integrate it as a component of inside of a React application. So yeah, you're completely good with Webviewer on client side. Okay, can Pdftran be integrated with Sharepoint? Yeah, just like I said, right? We try to keep Webviewer SDK as framework or integration agnostic, and we actually have a Sharepoint integration that we're kind of either it's coming live very soon or it's already live on the website. But what I can do is we can follow up with you after and connect to a solution engineer that actually worked on the Sharepoint integration to answer any of your specific questions that you might have. Okay, and Sweet. Okay, so due to the size limit on querying the version data in Apex, version data. Okay, so if I understand the question correctly, that there is a limit on how much we can query out of the Apex version data. And so if we're working for the larger kind of document size, which Pdftran can handle, we've tested with documents like 2 GB or 8 GB. It's true. Salesforce does have that restriction. And right now what we're looking into kind of different ways of kind of playing around. Salesforce, released a set of new APIs that we can work with. So right now we're kind of investigating that. But if that still kind of becomes a problem and you're kind of storing very large documents, maybe it would be better to migrate your document storage to a different platform like an S3 bucket or Google Cloud or Azure or whatever other storage providers that you have. So that's an option as well. Okay. Another question is integrating Webviewer inside of an Angular. I'll try to keep it, kind of Salesforce, but I'll see if I can answer it. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So the OCR module. So OCR, Pdftran does provide OCR capabilities. Now OCR currently is only available server side. So OCR is optical character recognition, where, let's say you have an image or an image-based PDF, you can actually kind of go and run it through optical character recognition process. And in the end, it will return you a PDF that's searchable and where you can kind of highlight and interact with the text inside of it. Now, if integrating inside of an Angular project, you need to have another kind of server environment running. It could be Node.js, could be .NET, .NET Core, Java, anything. And then specifically for that error that Yuri is having, you just need to go ahead and download separate OCR module that's just not bundled together with our SDK download. So if you head on over to pdftran.com under Windows or Linux and hit the download section, you'll actually see the OCR module as a separate download. All right, well, a lot of talking. I think I've got through all the questions at this point. And yeah, perfect. One more question before we move on to the kind of the technical portion of it is whether or not printing out lists programmatically table from a database. So that's another common use case that we come across. Let's say we have a template of record entries, and we want to kind of present it and visualize it to the user. So a number of different approaches can be made. We can either work off an HTML template, which can be kind of generated with the record values that we received. And that generation can happen kind of server side for kind of building the HTML and then passing it to the Webviewer to convert it to a PDF and present it. Or we can actually work from a Word document where we have placeholder strings, very similar to kind of Conga flow, the way we do it, the way they do it, and kind of convert the Word template and populate the strings inside of it, or just use a PDF template as well. And to kind of visualize a little bit better, we can actually go to a off demo from the Salesforce, but we have it on our main demo. By the way, this is publicly available. If you head on over to documentation and launch demo, you can kind of take a look yourself. Don't do it now. Let's kind of walk through it together, but you can definitely do so. Check it out after the demo is complete. Now, inside of it, we can actually take a look at this one. So here I have a company name, street address, and other fields. And as you can see, they have a bit of a square brackets around them. And what I can do, since they're kind of placeholder strings, I can actually replace them completely client-side in Webviewer with the data that we can query. Now, keep in mind that, PDF templates or a Word document template kind of provides you a limitation for fixed data. So it's great to know how many records you have. In case of you have an N number of records and you just don't know how long that page is going to be or how the pagination is going to be handled, it's best to generate an HTML. And after you pass the HTML to kind of Pdftran conversion, it will paginate for you automatically. Okay, I mean, we can have like a whole separate webinar on just templating and what's the best way to generate templates and populate data. But let's get back into kind of the technical portion of it. So, you kind of seen it, you like it, you're like, okay, how do you actually go about integrating this into my Salesforce environment? So I'm going to walk you through it. So to get here where I'm at, what we can do is go to documentation, web, and then integration Salesforce, and you're going to land on this page. And inside of it, you can watch a video where I actually prepared a video kind of step-by-step walking you through how to do it. So if you have to, if you don't kind of catch all of the steps or something is missing, you can always watch a recording of this video and kind of go through the steps to get it inside of your Salesforce platform. But for today, I'm going to go through this Get Started guide, and I'll explain you every step of the way, and I will kind of show you what are some gotchas when integrating, or how do I, take all those useful guides that are written and kind of apply them on the component as well. So some of the prerequisites, maybe, as a Salesforce administrator, architect, developer, you probably already have all those tools installed on your kind of development machine. So we need Salesforce CLI, Node and NPM, and recently they released SFDX kind of Salesforce extensions, and I love them. It just makes working with Salesforce so much easier. And then the Webviewer. So to kind of get things started, go ahead and download webviewer.zip, and then after that, we actually can go ahead and extract it. And inside of the terminal, kind of navigate to the folder that you're opening and just run npm run optimize. Now, this will kind of download all the necessary dependencies and will prepare files that you would need specifically to place inside of Salesforce Lightning Web Component project. Now, it runs you through a bit of a questionnaire. Whether or not you want to back up your files, totally up to you. I mean, you just download the webviewer.zip, so you can just unpack it if something goes wrong and try again. Whether or not you will be using Webviewer Server. Now, Webviewer Server is an option if you want to kind of handle additional file formats. And not to kind of derail it, but if you want to take a look and figure out which file formats Webviewer can handle, client-side versus server-side, you can actually navigate to the file format support under what is Webviewer. And let's actually take a look at that. And I'll kind of walk you through the different options available. So out of the box, kind of Webviewer component inside of Salesforce can handle all the PDF versions, PDFA, XFDF, and FDF. Those are just kind of annotation file format. It can handle modern versions of DocX, XOX, and PPTX. And it can handle image formats like JPEG, PNG, TIFF, and we support single-page and multi-page TIFF as well. It can support video format, something new that we added where you can annotate videos frame by frame, which is kind of cool. And yeah, so now for all other file formats that are listed here, as you can see, it's broken out into 3 columns. So let's do the most easiest one, custom server. So custom server is where you have a Windows or Linux server, and you just embed the SDK inside of it, and you just convert the files ahead of the time. So it could be when the user is uploading them, you just kind of convert them to PDF and store, all the file formats coming in as a PDF. You can also save them with a linearized option set to true to make the kind of very similar to a YouTube video where you can stream the content of the document from your file storage to the client. So let's say if you have a super long page, like 50 pages, the user doesn't have to wait for the whole 50 pages to be downloaded. They can just start accessing the content as it comes in. So that's kind of custom server and can handle quite a bit of formats here, including CAD documents. And then Webviewer server is kind of like a hybrid option between the two. So it leverages client-side for any of the file formats that can be rendered client-side. And then for any of the file formats, like older Office formats or CAD documents or weird image formats that you want to handle, it will actually generate and convert them on the fly, and then serve the generated pages to the web viewer. So it does it in real time. So this is what this kind of question takes care of for the web viewer server, whether or not you're going to be using it. So just think of it, do you have file formats that are not PDF or modern Office formats? And if the answer is yes, then you got to use web viewer server, so you can configure this package for that in that way. Now, conversion documents to Zod, it's a bit of a legacy product and something that we're moving away, but Zod was pretty much used as an additional security layer for protecting the documents. So Zod is pretty much a PDF with additional optimizations that are made, but also, if the user gets their hands on the Zod file format, they not necessarily have a readily available viewer that can view Zod documents. So again, I would just say no to that specifically for the Salesforce build. And then whether or not we need client-side Office support. So to make the library size a little bit more modular, smaller, we separated it into a PDF worker to render PDFs, and then we separate into an Office worker. Now, by saying yes to the client-side Office support, it will actually create inside of the build folder the Office worker that we'll put inside of Salesforce. And then another tricky one, whether or not we need the full PDF API or not. And usually, I would recommend just saying no to this one, starting out with a client-side version first, just like a very lean, version of our library. And pretty much for all of the functionality that you saw, like for viewing, annotating, inserting, commenting, all of that is available with our lean API. But then what we need full API for is the most easiest way. If you played around with our library yet, then if you're using the PDFnet keyword, then you need full API. If you're not using PDFnet keyword, so PDFnet provides you with low-level editing of the page. And you actually, for example, in some of the guides that we go, so for example, if I go to the guides and I'm looking at our redaction guide, and for example, like setup or create, it will mention that full API is needed, for example, for redaction capability. And that's how you will know whether or not redaction is needed. And in other cases, some things are only available through the PDFnet. And we put a like this helpful banner that indicates that you do need the full API to be set to true. Okay, so let's get back to this guide. And then, yeah, the last most important question, whether or not we're going to deploy to the Salesforce. So definitely yes to this one. And again, I went through and explained to you the differences in the full API, but you can also visit this link to if you forget what's the difference between the two, you can take a look here. So the next, what we're going to do is clone Webviewer Salesforce. So actually, let's go check it out and take a look what it is. Now, I have already done all of those steps, and I'm not going to be doing those steps in front of you just because, I don't want to waste your time and you just watching me download those files. But I'm just going to walk you through and pinpoint, some common pitfalls or like when people get stuck with setting this up. Now, inside of this, and I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see. Now, how to add, so, okay. So this one is Webviewer Salesforce, and think of it as a very very blank LWC template, so Lightning Web Component template. So it's very bare bones component in which we fold Salesforce documentation and we build the skeleton of the app. And what we're going to do inside of it, so earlier you download webviewer.zip, we're actually going to place the build, all the workers that can handle rendering capability inside of this skeleton app for LWC. And then this LWC app can be customized in any way and embedded inside of the Salesforce platform. So think of it as, we have LWC app that's in front of your screens right now. We're putting Webviewer inside of it, and then we're grabbing the LWC app with Webviewer inside of it and putting it inside of our Salesforce. Okay, so now, you've downloaded, open it up in your Visual Studio Code, and this is kind of the project structure that you might see. So let's take a look at some of the kind of more notable area, because you don't need to know like all of the inside and outs of the LWC or how to build one. I'll just kind of show you exactly what to look out for. So the kind of all the files that we've generated inside of webviewer.zip, and after the build, we will copy them and place them inside of static resources and place them right here. And as you can see that when uploading the files to the Salesforce, we need to tell Salesforce what we're going to be uploading them. And there's one small gotcha here, is that depending on which resource we're uploading, whether you generated a kind of full PDF capability with the PDFnet and redaction capabilities, which we will do in this example, then you should be good. But if you're using lean version of the library, when you place pdf_lean.zip into here, make sure that you rename the resource name. And if you don't do that, when you push to your kind of sandbox, then it will also let you know that it couldn't find the description of the resource when trying to push for it. Okay, so then also inside of the static resource, it comes with this config.js that I'm just going to open for now in my code editor, and we're going to take a look at it soon. And then already kind of pre-built, we see under Force App Main Default, Lightning Web Component, and Webviewer. So Webviewer and the File Picker combo box are the two components that we pre-built and that we've seen earlier. So this is our kind of file controller. It's completely optional and up to you whether or not you want to use it, but we just wanted to have kind of like out of the box so people can open up their own files. And then we also have the kind of the Webviewer component that you see on the right of it in here. Okay. So now let's take a look at the Webviewer.js. So the part that I'm really interested in is right here. So Pdftran Webviewer. And this is the options object in which we can set up and configure a lot of kind of different functionality. So for example, I showed you earlier that we were able to redact or measure, and this can be set ahead of the time inside of our constructor here. Now, let's say you have different user groups that can get access to different functionalities. This is also the place where you can kind of pre-configure, based on their access level, and place to say, hey, I want to, like disable certain features and functionality for them. And again, this is all available from our documentation. So let me pop open the UI customization, and you can kind of go through and say hide show DOM elements. And this is where inside of the Webviewer constructor options, you can actually pass the disabled elements inside of it and kind of determine whether or not people will get access to that functionality. And to get the data element, you can just inspect that specific button. And by inspect, I mean doing something like this, where you can hit inspect and then use kind of this mouse tool to pinpoint exactly the element that you're looking at. And we're looking for the things that are data element, and then you can pass it into the array of disabled elements inside of Webviewer. And this is how you can customize, the specific functionality available. If you're not too familiar with it, you can actually go and use this demo right here for UI customization, where we can hide show things like download and print. We can toggle light theme, dark theme. We can enable disable text selection or hide specific tools, and it will actually generate a code snippet that you can add those items inside of your array as well for disabling certain functionality. So super handy. Check it out. Let's get back to here. So now here, another important thing that it points to a config file. and config.js. Now, because of the Salesforce, there are some limitations where we can just keep inserting and interacting with our web viewer directly. So we have to provide it a config.js file, and that's where we're going to receive the kind of the instance object that you might see in a lot of the guides. And instead of the instance, it's actually referred to reader control here. So reader control.enable features, and we can kind of customize our web viewer behavior here, or add additional kind of processing. So we can set up different events that we're going to be listening to. So for example, here I'm listening to the viewer loaded event, and then I'm enabling certain features and functionalities inside of it. There's other events that are available, like for example, document loaded, that we can listen to. And again, if you don't know the events that are available, you can take a look here. There's web viewer events, there's annotation events, text select events. And those are the events that you can kind of listen to and then perform whatever functionality in your workflow as a next step. Okay, and in here, actually, what I'm enabling is reader control feature multiple viewer merging. So after you kind of done placing the static resources, and you set up kind of whatever features you want to enable or disable inside of webviewer.js and config file, after that, you should be good to push it. And to push it, I use the SFDX, and I just push source to default scratch org. And after that, all my changes are reflected here. Now, Salesforce is a little bit notorious for caching all of the elements. So just make sure you give it a couple refreshes. And after that, your changes should be reflected inside of the web viewer. So now, for this portion of it, I actually want to customize, because maybe I don't want to use this controller. And actually, maybe I want to build kind of a document assembly workflow where I want the viewer component to be loaded side by side. So to do that, I can simply go into edit page, or if you're like hardcore enough, you can just manipulate LWC sample that we provide. But I really like this one. Lightning App Builder creates a pretty sweet experience. And inside of here, we see that there's some certain standard functionality available. So they're kind of pre-built Salesforce component or integrations. So I can kind of start linking WebViewer with other functionality that I might have. And I can figure out where WebViewer appears and how this component is going to look. And then there's some custom ones that we pre-built. So we have WebViewer Aura if you're working with a little bit of an older component. So you're not quite LWC ready, but you want to build it out with Aura, sure. So yeah, so for this one, we're building LWC, so I'll just use WebViewer. And what I'll do is I'll actually change the template because I want two viewers side by side. So I'll simply go into change and say header and two regions. That looks good to me. And it just kind of migrates the kind of current view to the new view. And let's actually remove this component here. And then let's add another component here. So now we have two web viewers side by side. So this is great. We can load up two different files into them, or maybe two different versions of the files if we're kind of trying to compare the two. And hit save. And after that, I'm done. And I can go back to my Lightning Web app. And as you can see that it has changed. So now we have two web viewers. I know they're kind of loading the same document and they're just kind of hard-coded to the same, but you can configure them to open different documents as well. And inside, what I can do here is actually drag and drop pages from one web viewer to another. So let me pick up this starting page and just simply drop it into the other viewer. Wow, this is awesome. So I can actually have this initialized with no document. And maybe, here I'm going to be opening various different documents and kind of performing document assembly and assembling my master documents, or pulling out certain pages out of this document if I don't need to. And similarly, I can just do it not just from kind of two viewer components, but I can simply drag and drop other things like images, other Office documents, PDFs, directly from a desktop environment or from other viewers. OK, so at this point, that's all I wanted to show you. Don't want to overwhelm you. dive into our documentation, try out our samples. And for the kind of the latter portion of it, we have about 10 minutes to go. I'm going to try to get through as many questions as possible. If I can't get to your question, don't worry. Just reach out to us. You can email us at support@pdftran.com. Okay, perfect. So let's get to the questions. I'll go through kind of the most recent ones. So full version of PDFnet does not have OCR module. So OCR module, yes, it's kind of a separate module that we did it. So it's kind of lightweight for somebody kind of just needing the PDF functionality, or if they want PDF and OCR module. And again, it's only available server side. So you need, either .NET or Node.js environment or something like that to kind of set up an endpoint where you're going to say, hey, I have an image-based PDF, or I have an image. Go ahead, convert it to PDF, get the text out of it, and then give me back the PDF with text. So that's how I would go about designing that endpoint. Okay, how easy it is to upgrade from the Lean API to the full API later in SF package if you need to. Yeah, so again, great question. So you can start off with Lean. Lean is kind of nice that the loading times, since we're not loading the full version of the library, it's a little bit more performant. So if we're just kind of, simple viewing and annotating, yep, just go with Lean. And then later, if you're like, oh, now we have to build out a different workflow, or our users are asking for a specific requirement, then in that case, you can just kind of simply toggle the switch in the Webviewer.js. You can say full API to true, and then you can replace the static resources from PDF_lean to PDF full, and then just push the changes, to your app, and it should be reflected for all your users. And yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. And by the way, any of the config that you wrote for the Lean API will continue working exact same way for the full API as well. So there's no kind of other changes that you have to do. So it should be pretty easy kind of upgrade path. Okay, so if we use AutoCAD files, DWG, we can store them in Sharepoint, and any users who view can generate a PDF. Is that correct statement? So great question. So previously, I showed you this page right here under what is Webviewer file format support. So as you can see, the kind of client-side version of Webviewer does not have support for DWG, DWF, DXF, DGN. And you have two options available. You can either have a Webviewer server running, and it will convert those documents on the fly and serve the PDF page to the Webviewer on the client side, or you can pre-convert them ahead of the time using the custom server. So it is correct server. Next question is workflows. For example, 3 people need to sign off on the document. Once the first signs, can automatically send email to the second person. Absolutely. So for the workflows, again, just because we cater to so many different verticals, so many different use cases, we try to keep it pretty generic. And by keeping it generic, you can tap into different events that are available. And if you are on Salesforce platform, you can kind of set up listening to those events inside of a config.js file. So for example, here, we can listen to annotation changed. For example, somebody adding, and we get an annotation object. And inside of this annotation object, we can check if it's a signature and if all the other fields been completed by that specific user. And after say, hey, yeah, that's great. We can now move the document along to the next person in the stage. So absolutely can be done. Okay, so compared to PDF's overlays, that's another kind of great capability. So kind of here I showed you loading up to viewers, but right now user is kind of like comparing them manually. Where another option that we can do under advanced Pdftran samples, you can go ahead and check out Diff document sample. And this functionality can be fired up in Salesforce, where user can pick a couple of different files that they want to compare. And as you can see, that version here on the left is missing this bullet point, version here on the right is missing this one. And then in the middle, we overlay the comparison, which is still searchable. So this now makes it very easy for the user to kind of go and see the changes, especially if the document has tons of different pages. Okay, so all the, so the drag and drop capability between instances of Webviewer, are there any licensing requirements to allow this? Again, to kind of learn all the functionality or the way we package our technology, if you head on over to pdftran.com/feature chart, you can take a look. And for simplicity reason, we broke it down into kind of view and package, view and annotate, and core SDK. And inside of here, you can kind of take a look at what different functionality you have available. For example, document creation, document compare, some of the add-ons like redaction, video, PDFA, or Office to PDF. So depending on what your current license kind of is offering and saying like, oh, you have a viewer or viewer and annotation, you just need to give us a call or talk to our awesome licensing team to kind of ensure that you have that permission available. Okay, let's go into chat, see if I missed anything. Okay, and yeah, I think I got through all of the questions. Thanks so much for coming, and I'll give you back 4 minutes in your day. I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and yeah, we'll stay in touch. Go ahead and email us if you have any outstanding questions, and also check out our YouTube channel, where I actually put together a lot of fun content where we, build different applications or go deeper in specific use cases. Okay,